Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think mainly good morning. How's everyone doing? I'm just not gonna lie, this is not coffee right now. I already had coffee. This is chicken broth because I was craving chicken broth right now. I know it's very random, but it is what it is. So let's just pretend it's coffee because you can't really see what's inside. Um, So, how's everyone doing today? Let me put this here so I see everything. Um, yeah, so as usual, we're going to start with useless coffee tips, information, etc. that I come here to share. So, this morning I was talking with one of my friends, and we were talking about doing latte art and how do you do it, what's the best way to do it, whatever. And if you don't have like one of those espresso machines with the wand on the side where you can froth the milk or whatever, there's another way you can actually froth your milk like that with a French press. Let me see if I can actually French, because when I was explaining this to my friend, they didn't actually know what a French press was. So let me see if I can just share that quickly. Share, just want to share one tab. I don't know why I Googled French pressure, but I meant French press. So that's basically a French press if you see right there. And you can froth your milk with it. You basically put warm milk in it and then give it a few pumps. There's a little bit more to it, but basically you give it a few pumps and then you'll have decent milk to do some latte art, or like at least the creaminess needed for it. And that was the useless coffee tip of the day. Thank you for joining. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about today is kind of talk about what we've been doing in the previous streams. I don't know if you've been here watching since the very beginning or not, so I'm gonna try to do a recap and try to explain how we got where we are today. Let me first change the caption thingy because I want people to ask questions today. So I thought maybe if I put text in there, they'll ask questions, and put my chat here. So the way this live stream series began was me trying to figure out how to build a Ruby SDK for OpenFGA. And OpenFGA, if we remember, is an open source project to build an authorization system that is heavily based on relationship-based access control. So you can have very granular control over your authorization rules, basically. And there were two ways you can build an SDK for that. One way is using a generator, and the other way is just writing it, by yourself, just basically manually creating the SDK on your own. And I decided to go that route. And we did that for a couple of streams. We built the endpoints for actually, let me just share my screen because it makes more sense. First, I'm going to move the streaming to the side, and then I'm going to bring this here so I can share. I want to not have my thingy is here, but okay, let me open this so I can share the proper tab. 1 second. I want to go to the right repo before I go crazy about this. I have way too many repos. I don't know if this happens to you as well, but there's a point where it comes not easy to handle. Okay, I have the right one. So I'm going to share my entire screen because it's easier. This screen share. And let's see. Yep. Okay. I don't like being a square there, but it's okay. I want to be a circle. Can I change that? I don't think I can. Maybe. No. I could earlier. No, wait, maybe I can. Circle. Maybe I can put myself in the corner. Okay, whatever. So yeah, this was basically the SDK that we were building, and we built the stores endpoints, and the last thing we did was building the authorization model endpoints. Because if you remember what the SDK does, if we go to openfga.dev, the SDK is basically a wrapper around the API, the OpenFGA API, so you can interact with it and do absolutely anything with your OpenFGA server. Oh, I see something in the chat. Hi, Carla. How are you? I am good. How are you? Thank you for writing in the chat. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about, because I assume that people are watching this for a while, but that is usually not the case, just let me know and I'll clarify anything. So yes, I was saying the SDK is just a wrapper around the API. It adds obviously a little bit more stuff for configuration and credentials and whatnot, but overall what we were trying to do was a wrapper for this API instead of manually making requests to it. So we built these endpoints and we built these endpoints, authorization models. That was the last thing. That's this PR that I have here. Hasn't been merged, but I can merge it eventually. So those were the two things that we were doing. And then what was left was the relationship tuples endpoints, the relationship queries, and the assertion endpoints. So we were kind of halfway. And then halfway through the process, as I was building these files, because I'm writing this myself, I'm thinking maybe I could be introducing more errors than I would like to. And yes, I'm writing tests as well and all of that, but there might be something going on. So then the other alternative to do this was to use a generator to create this code for me. And how do you do that? The thing is, OpenFGA is based on OpenAPI. And so with OpenAPI, they have a generator to just basically grab everything that you have in your Swagger and translate that into a project in the programming language of your choice. Like in my case, Ruby, for example. And so the OpenFGA team, let me see if I have it here, had created a wrapper around the OpenAPI generator, which is under, it's an OpenFGA SDK generator. It's this project here, where they basically not only generate the calls to the API, but also added some custom things for OpenFGA specifically. So if you generate a new SDK using this generator, there are a few things that you have on your side, kind of say. So the first thing is, if you manage to do it and then it gets accepted by the maintainers or the community in general, you have support for maintenance, basically. So that's something really cool. You don't have to maintain the whole project by yourself. And then another thing is when you generate this code, you pretty much have, most of the times, have working code. You can tell it's not like human-made code, but it works. And so my thinking is chances of introducing errors using the generator might be less. Or in an ideal world, there might be less. Let me read. We have a comment. It says, I don't know much about Ruby, only use Fastlane built with Ruby for mobile deployment automation script in my last role. That's okay. We're gonna be talking about Ruby, but honestly, I think this is more around the topic of which solution is better. Like, do we want to generate this code? Do we want to do it by ourselves? And then kind of like dig into both options. Thank you for your comment, because having that in mind, I will try to explain a little bit more when we have any Ruby code. So yeah, this is the generator. And last week, if you didn't watch this last week we had Evan, who is one of the maintainers of the SDKs. He works a lot with the Python SDK. There he is. And we were talking specifically about this, like how does it look, what's the developer experience when you're building it yourself or when you're using the generator. And he even went ahead and generated an SDK. So I thought, okay, what if we try to do that, but for Ruby specifically? So I have cloned this repo. This is all open source, so you can go ahead, clone it, like fork it, play around. I have a fork of it, not clone. And I don't know, I thought we could go through it and try to understand what is the generator doing, because I think the most or like the hardest part, at least for me, to work with this generator is that it's a project in itself. So you first need to understand what the hell this is going on in order to understand the rest of the code. Even if you know Ruby or JavaScript or whatever framework you're doing or language you're using, you first need to understand what is going on here. So let me check my notes to see if I missed anything. No, okay. So here I have the project. I haven't even opened anything. But can you see this properly? Yes, maybe a little bit more zoom just in case. Yeah. So if we look at the project structure, we have a config folder, we have some docs, scripts, or whatever, but most of the things happen in the config folder. In this config folder, we have a clients and a common folder, and in the clients, we can see that we have a few different folders for different languages. We have .NET, Go, Java, JavaScript, Python, and Ruby. In the case of Ruby, we've already generated something for it, so I want to start from something that that's like my starting point right now. And if we open, for example, the Ruby folder, we'll see that we have some weird files and something inside the template, and again, more weird files. Let me see if I have some. Do I have something for mustache? No, but let's put it as Ruby, see if that makes sense. Okay, that's a little bit better color-wise, but not the best. I probably need to get highlighted for mustache. Hola Diana, how you doing? Thank you for watching me suffer with these files. Okay, so this is pretty much what we have. We have a bunch of templates, and this is whenever you generate a new SDK with the OpenFGA SDK generator. This is what you get. You get a bunch of templates, and that's it. Like, this is it. And so, ideally, when you ask the generator to actually generate the code that developers would be interacting with, you'll get like a normal Ruby gem in our case. So we're going to try to do that. Let me open my terminal here. And so in order to do that, they have a make file down here. And in the make file, you can run, like, you can build all the clients. I don't want to do that because I think my laptop will die if I do that. I'm just going to do it for the Ruby one. So I'm going to scroll down, see where that is, Java, Ruby. So I think all I have to do is just make and then build client Ruby. So let's test that out. See if it works. Hopefully it does. Is the Docker daemon running? No, it's not. So thank you for raising that, my dear terminal. So we're gonna open Docker, and we don't wanna do this right now. I just wanna open Docker. Yes. Why are you acting like it's the first time I use you? I think Docker's running now. It's starting, so let's wait a little bit. Okay, Docker is running. Just make sure. Let me zoom in there because I want to make sure that you can read it afterwards. Hello? Okay. I'm zooming in, but it doesn't seem like I'm zooming in this thing. That's weird. Anyways, okay. So make and then nope. Make build client Ruby. And this is doing some things. So it's pulling some stuff from the OpenAPI generator CLI, as you can see here. We're gonna wait a little bit while that happens. It might take a little bit, but at least this is gonna walk us through the whole process of actually generating one of these SDKs. Download a newer image. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff going on. It's writing files into /clients/FGA Ruby SDK. So that's probably where we need to check next. Okay, this worked. And as you can see, it says here, thanks for using OpenAPI generator. So like I said, the OpenFGA generator is using that under the hood. So let's take a look at what changed here. We had our config folder, and now we have a clients folder. This folder only has the Ruby SDK generator in here. So this is pretty much what was generated after running that make command. And if we look at it, you'll see that this pretty much looks like a normal gem. Like this gem is called OpenFGA. We have a gem spec here. And then under the lib folder, we have, the main file where we're requiring everything else. And then inside here, we have an API client, version, models, API, and whatnot. Now, earlier I was talking about, generated code versus not generated code. And so I want to show you one of these files so you understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to start with the OpenFGA API file. So this file is the one that holds all the methods to call the OpenFGA API. And when I say all, is all. Like everything is in one file. This file, I don't know how many lines it has. Let's check. It has like 1,000, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, basically. So it's a very big file. And if you look at it, you'll see that, there's an initializer here. This would be a constructor in that's what you would call it in another language. Hi, Chris. Thank you for joining. Then we have different methods that we're calling. So there's a back check. There's back check with HTTP info. Let's look at another one. This is a very long method, as you can see. There's a method called check. And so I think, for example, back check and check are actually direct calls to the API. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. Like if we try to find this one, the create store one, because as I've said in the past, the create store method is probably not method, but like request is probably the first one that you're going to be doing when you're interacting with OpenFGA. This is pretty much how it looks like. But when I see this, as a Ruby developer myself, I'm like, I mean, yes, this probably works, but there's something that feels off for me. I cannot explain exactly what it is, but there are weird things going on. For example, and this is a silly thing, the way we're defining a hash here, this is not normal. Like the way you would do this in Ruby would probably be something like this, having the key as a symbol and then this part as a string, something like that. So there's those little details that just make you feel like this wasn't written by a human who wrote this. And the answer is no human. This was completely auto-generated. But yeah, that was my feeling when I was working with this generator. And that's why I decided to, just let me do it myself. I'll do it myself. And then I realized, I'm introducing some errors. So let me actually look into this a little bit more and see how can I make sure that this generated code offers the best experience, because what I'm thinking is, if you're using this as a developer, if you're trying to use OpenFGA with this Ruby SDK, you're not going to be interacting with this specific file. Like, you're not going to be opening this and, well, maybe if you want to like understand what's going on under the hood, but the majority of cases, you probably read the docs and make the calls, and use it, and that's it. So even though I would prefer to have this file like very Ruby idiomatic, like, so to say, I also need to be conscious of how much work it takes to get to this, and then yeah. So this is the generated code, and if you see it, it looks okay, apart from what we just discussed, but the structure feels right. We have a spec folder, so there's probably going to be some tests going on there. I don't think there's anything right now. There is some stuff, but it's probably just like dummy things. In the API one, there's nothing. There's this empty assertions here, or empty tests. So another thing is that, so what would I love like to happen? If you want to interact with this code, you need to create like 4 objects in order to make a call to this specific API. You need to create first a configuration using this configuration object right here. Then with that configuration, you can create an API client, and then with the API client, you can call the OpenFGA API. So it takes a little while to just do that, and it's just not the best experience. So my idea would be, or like in an ideal world, I would like to have an SDK where you don't necessarily have to do all those steps, but that kind of happens under the hood, and then your interaction with it is not as like heavy. And if we look at one of the other SDKs, so for example, I'm going to take the Go SDK, because I was looking into it, and it was actually the Go SDK is it's like something in between that we were explaining. So the Go SDK is generated by the SDK generator, but they have some like files in between to make it feel more idiomatic to Go developers. Okay, there's a lot going on here. So for example, let's go to how you initialize it here. When you initialize this API client, what you're doing is you're creating a new SDK client, and then you're passing a configuration that has the URL, the store ID, if you have it, and the authorization model ID. And that's it. That's how you initialize your client, and then you can start making API calls after that. You can, of course, pass a bunch of things like credentials and whatnot, but we're not even going to deal with that until we actually have something working. So I really like how this is done, but I'm wondering, how was this actually implemented, right? Because this is not, this configuration, this like new SDK client, this is not generated, this was custom made. So let me see if I can find that file. There's a bunch of stuff going on here. I think this is under the client, and then client.go. This is probably where this is it. Yeah, here it is. Now, I'm not a Go developer. I'm not, I've seen Go code in my life, but this is not the programming language I'm most comfortable with. And you can see by reading this, or my feeling is this wasn't written by a machine. And then again, how do I know that? It just, I don't know how to explain it. But it just feels like it was human written. So yeah, if you see here, they're just creating a structure around the SDK configuration that is adding up the scheme, the host, the URL. And so I kind of want to have the same thing for the Ruby SDK. You see, and then they're creating their own OpenFGA client with that client configuration, an SDK client. And this is the, I think this was the code we were interacting with when we were looking at the README. So I don't know, it just feels more usable than having to create the configuration, then the API client, then passing it to the OpenFGA API, blah, blah, blah. It just feels better. So let's see if we can attempt to do something like this. But for that, we need to figure out the generator first. So something that Evan told me last week when we were streaming together, because he's very much used working, to work with SDKs and generated code and whatnot. He said usually he goes kind of like finding his way back to the generator. So he would start writing the code in Python or PHP or whatever, and then translate that into the generator code. And why is that? Because to generate the code, you gotta know or understand this like mustache templating format. So let me see, let's put Ruby here, see how this looks. If you look at these mustache files, there's definitely some, templating going on, but there's also some Ruby code. Here, there's a lot of Ruby code. And then, for example, in the API, this one is almost completely mustache templating stuff. Like there's barely any Ruby code in this. And this file is 250 lines. 256 lines. This is a file that's generating that other one with 1,234 lines. So, I mean, learning how to do this, I think it's going to take a while. So I would rather just testing it out in Ruby first and then, translate that back, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. I want to show you how this looks like when you try to build it. So we said this is just a normal Ruby gem, right? So I'm going to go to clients FGA. So this is I'm here in my Ruby gem, which looks like a normal Ruby gem. And I'm gonna build it. So I'm gonna do gem build OpenFGA gem spec. We have now a new file, which is the actual gem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it. And then I'm also going to open the Ruby interpreter so I can test it out. Gem installed. And so now the, errors. Invalid specification exception. Okay. It's saying that the gem contains itself. That has happened to me in the past. So I think if we add that to the gem file, we shouldn't have that problem. We have it here though. To the git ignore, sorry, not the gem file. But okay, if it's not paying attention from the git ignore, then I'm just gonna just do it manually in the, where is it? In the gem spec. I'm gonna say here. So basically, what it's doing, what the error is saying is you're trying to build a gem, but the gem contains itself, and that is when we are adding the files to build this gem. We want to skip the gem file. So here I want to say unique sort select if it's not empty and it's not. I have this somewhere else, so let me just copy it. And if you don't do this, I don't believe you. If you've done it in the past and you don't copy it from a previous project, you're lying. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Gem spec. The weird thing, I didn't get this error yesterday, so I'm a little bit confused. But when you run it live, it has to fail, right? It has to But this is basically what I want to copy. I want to say, do not copy anything that it's a gem file. Didn't remember. But yeah, let's test it out again. Please don't break on me. I'll drink water while that happens. There we go. So it didn't want to be contained in itself, basically. And then here I'm going to import that gem. It's called OpenFGA. That's the name I use. And now from here is where I would be able to use this. So the first thing that we need is a configuration. And I think I can create, okay, it's not here, maybe configuration. Carla, don't be lazy, just look at the code and figure it out. Let me put this down. Configuration. It is under OpenFGA. So why are you not working? OpenFGA config. Thank you. .new. I think I can just create an empty config and it will give me like default stuff. Like, yeah, I'm using localhost. And HTTP. I need to change. I want to use not only localhost, but also the port, like localhost 3000. So I should probably set the base path, maybe. Can I just pass it like that? Take a look at the initializer. The host, I think, is the base path. I would like to think it's the base path. And is it like this? Let's see. I'm gonna do TTP localhost 3000. Does that work? No. Expected. Oh, okay. It doesn't take it in the initializer, but I can probably just do config.basepath and say localhost 3000 with HTTP. Actually, not 3000, but 8080, because that's where I'm going to have my API running in the future, HTT. Okay, and the config now has like a different thing. Ooh, no, that doesn't look good. Base path. Okay, maybe without the HTTP, like that. Okay, the base path is not what I think it is. That would be, I'm thinking of like a base URL, not a base path. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in. I'm going to leave this empty, and then I'm going to say config.host. I'm going to change that for localhost 8080 then. And that's my configuration. So I have a configuration, and then according to this, I need an API client as well in order to make these calls. So I'm just going to create a new one and pass the configuration that I just created. So API client is going to be an OpenFGA API client, new, and I'm going to pass the configuration. And this API client looks like this. It has nothing else basically right now. It has some headers and stuff. Now I can do, let's call it just client. I can do something like FGA, OpenFGA API.new. And I think the OpenFGA API receives the API client, yes, as an argument. So we can pass here the API client. And now my client has the API client, the configuration, and all those information. So now is where I can do things like client.create store, and I gotta pass, how do I pass the name of the store? Let's see. Create, how to pass it like this. So hopefully, like, I don't know, does this work? No. On the find method called API, no method error. Oh, that's interesting. That's generated code. So if we found an error, then they're proving me wrong. They're saying there's no method called call API in the API client. I'm pretty sure there is, but call API. Huh? What? This is new. Wait, what? That's weird. Let's close this file. API client.call API. We have 17 occurrences of the call API situation, and you're telling me this doesn't exist in the API client, which is this API client, just to be clear, this one, but that really doesn't exist here? I can't believe that. Oh my God, did we find an error? Okay, I mean, this is the 17 occurrences where we're calling it. This is other stuff from other files. This is not from our generated stuff. So what the hell? Did I change anything here? Because that is weird. API client has all these stuffs. That is interesting. Let me check the template. So the template for this is the one in the api.mustache file. Let's make this like Ruby because it's horrible. And so this is this API.mustache generating this OpenFGA API. So if there's nothing here called call API, there is though. There's only one occurrence of this. Okay, so what about this API client? This is where that should be defined, right? Oh, this is exciting. If we actually found an error, that's exciting. I didn't plan for this, I promise. So here, depending on the HTTP client that you're using, like Typhus, Faraday, or HTTPX, you're doing things, but so this is calling like a partial, which let's say, I think by default it's using Typhus. So let's check that file. Ruby. Here's the call API method. So it should be generated. I wonder if it's not like, because I didn't say which client I'm using, it's giving some sort of like error or something. Like, how do you know what am I using here? Let me see the gem file to see what this is doing. Okay, gem spec. There's nothing really about. Okay. I'm gonna do a bundle install because am I in the right folder? Yes, I have a gem file, so I'm gonna do bundle install and see what this does. I want to see what's installing. It didn't really install anything, so maybe by default it's not taking anything. So if it's not taking any HTTP client, then it's not generating the right code. Ooh, I'm excited. Okay. I'm such a nerd. I'm getting excited about finding an error. I know you know the feeling. I know you know the feeling. Okay, so this is simply not happening. So none of this code. Okay, I would like you to just keep it like that. Why do I have to set it up every time? Thank you. So in theory, a call API method should be generated and also a build request method. And for here, same. There's a call API and a build request, and for Faraday as well. But what happens if you don't specify anything? Jesus Christ, this is horrible. Maybe you gotta pass it in the configuration. Let me open the real configuration, not the template. Like, where do you actually choose that? I think it should be here, right? Like, this is where you configure things, you would think. So there's nothing here about that. What about in the template? I was avoiding doing this, but you know, please just stay. Stay like Ruby. Stay. Let's see where this here. This isn't, if it's typhus or Faraday, blah, 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 we include that. Okay, but like, where are we saying which one we're using? That's my question. Let me leave this open, and I'm gonna open the typhus one with Ruby again, because that's the closest we're gonna get. So yeah, we have some stuff here. Okay, we have like different accessors. Same here, same here. So that's not a lot. So it's just adding more accessors, that's okay. But where is this coming from? I wanna know. API client is Faraday, where are we defining that? Not really. I mean, we're using it in a bunch of places, but how do you know? That is my question. Maybe in the common files. I think there is a, so if you see there's like a common folder here, and it has like a base configuration. You know, talking about files. Am I in the right place? Yeah, Ruby. A bunch of files here. But is there anything about the HTTP client, TP? No, there's a bunch of links, but there's, what about type? No, what about Faraday? Okay, no. I feel like it could be here. Like, this would be a good place to do that, but maybe it's not here. So let me open in here. Contributing, partial header, custom badges, readme version. What's this partial headers? Nah, notice, git ignore, contributing fossa. Assets? Nah. Okay, so not there. What about this config overrides? Is this where I was? Aha, found it. Library typhus. Then why is this not being added to the gem file or anything? You know what I mean? Like, if we're using typhus, then in the generated code, we should import it. Like, you know, we only have rake and everything for the gem spec, which doesn't say anything about typhus. So that's weird. I'm gonna, before I assume the worst, meaning this is wrong, I'm gonna look at one of the other SDK. So I'm gonna try with Python, because that one I feel more comfortable with. So we said that this information was in the config overrides. No, in the, was it the config overrides? There's so many files, oh my God. It's definitely not this one. So let me go back to Ruby. Where did I have that? Was it the config overrides? Okay, it was the config overrides for me, for Ruby. What about for Python? How does that work? Let me go back. Config overrides. Is there something called library here? There's nothing. Okay, so Python might not be the best example for me right now. So what about Go, for example? Config overrides. Is this like a custom Ruby? Okay, let me just search around the whole project. Library. would be like this. Okay, so we do have a few. We have in .NET, Java, and Ruby. So in the case of Java, we're using the library native. And then I assume we make some checks about that. But my question is, are you importing native? It should, but Jesus, I haven't looked at Java code in a long time, people. Do I wanna? Okay. I'm not going to. I'm not going to do that right now. I don't have the strength. So the first thing is I want to find out what this is not being added to the gem file. So if I look at the gem file generator, is that such a thing? Does that exist? Yes. Here, my understanding is that there should be like an if statement similar to something like this to add the right thing. So let me just copy this and see what this does. So development and test. I want it regardless of development and test, right? So if it's typhus, I assume that this is something like opening the if statement and closing it, and so on and so forth, like open and close, and then open and close. So if it's typhus, can I just write code in here? Like, yes, I can write. Apparently, I can just write Ruby code. So what I'm gonna put here is, let's see, gem type. I don't know how to spell typhus, so I'm gonna try. Found it. Wrap sleep curl in order to make faster and lower requests. Okay, that's good. Let me just copy. I thought there was like an important version or something. So I'm gonna put here gem typhus. And then for the other ones, I'm gonna do the same. I'm excited because we found an error. We potentially found an error in the generator. So Faraday, is it just Faraday like that? Gem Faraday. Let's see. Okay, no installation instructions. Speaking of developer experience, the best starting point is here. Okay, but the README would be nice too. Why use it? Who uses it? I just wanna. Okay, you know what? Ruby gem Faraday. I just want to know the name so I can import them properly. Just Faraday. Okay. And then the other one was HTTPX. I don't think I've used that HTTPX one. HTTPX. Oh, why is this in Spanish? I mean, fine by me, but I'm just curious. Oh, it's in GitLab. Okay, interesting. Okay, just HTTPX. Fine. Okay, so apparently I know I said that I would work my way starting with with the Ruby code and then back to the templates, but I feel like this is a change that needs to be in the generator first. So let's take a look at what happens. So what's going to happen now if I regenerate this? It's basically going to override anything in this folder called FGA Ruby SDK. So let's do that. Make build client Ruby. No rule to make target, because I'm not in the right folder, sorry. Here. Okay, it's building it. Fingers crossed. There's stuff going on. Okay, a bunch of stuff happening. So going back here to my client, I want to see the gem file. Nothing happened. It just added a bunch of blank spaces. Okay, so it's not as easy as just, writing this in here. I don't know how to do this mustache stuff. I thought it was easier. Let me see. Okay. You see, there is some stuff here. Okay, I should have looked at this before. And it's doing exactly what I was doing. But this is not being added at all into our actual gem spec. Let me leave this one open. Double click. Where's my gem spec? There's nothing here. There's just space. Okay, so it's not me. Something weird's going on. I have a feeling that this is not being defined anywhere. Like, where do you say, I'm using fire, I'm using this, I'm using that? Where is that? In the config overrides, isn't it? Yes. But, oh my God, do I really need to go into the source code? I don't want to. I'm scared. Let's see, library. So it's in the make file somewhere. Seems like it. Ooh, library native, annotation array, blah, blah, blah. This is Java stuff. Oh wait, there's something in the README. Are we really gonna end up? I should have read the docs before starting. Don't do this to me. Dependency line, OpenFGA, ta. Okay. Okay, no, that's not it. Apparently, it could be in the make file. So let's see what's in the make file. I don't want to do this right now. So library. Oh, okay. So I need to add this to the make file. Hehe, makes sense. So it's adding the library. So if I go, so for the client one, it's using async IO. So my, interesting. Okay. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That is fair that I have to do. As you see, the Ruby one, we're not doing anything. So let's see if I just write here library. And this is probably where the whole if statement comes from. I don't know how to spell this word. No. Then you're wondering, then why are you doing typhus? Because I've used it in the past, but I never knew how to spell it. Oh no. Okay. Test client, build client. Right now, I just want to build it. So let me see. Oh my God. I can't believe this is happening. I'm scared. Okay. Oh no, I had an error. Okay. Exception in thread main could not generate supporting file. Have I touched that? I touched the gem file, but now I don't wanna because theoretically this should have worked, but it failed. So I don't know. Let's try it again. Let's pretend that didn't happen and we'll just try it again. Okay, apparently it was that, but it was pointing to a completely different file. Okay. So technically our gem file, our gem spec should have now the library. I don't see it. It added RSpec, but I don't see anything else. So what? Why are you doing this to me? The thing is, it's not that I can even like, I mean, I could just change the gem file and then copy the whatever code missing, but I feel like there's so many like if statements. Like if you use Faraday, you need to edit this code here and there and whatnot. It's not only one file that I need to change, so I need to change it in the generator. But why are you leaving this blank? Why are you ignoring us? Is there a, like, maybe we had an error on this? Not the fine. Maybe not an error, but like a what you call it, a warning. I don't really see much. Generator Ruby is considered stable. So here is where this is running. Generate that with this, with typhus. I don't see much else about it. Did I assume this wrong and the library doesn't refer to that kind of library? I mean, it feels to me like async IO could be that for Python async IO. Yeah, oh, my mic just hurt me. What the hell? Okay, you need to stop. Yeah, it's a library to write concurrent code using async await syntax, which is how they're, this is what they're doing for the Python SDK. So looks okay to me. Is there anything else around async IO? Like, is there any other configuration that I need to, do I need to install something in my Docker? I don't. I just need this to be in the gem file somehow. Let me try with Faraday. I don't know. Just trying with a different one. See how that looks. Let's try again. There it is, Faraday. Maybe something will change. Got the same error again. Could not regenerate this supporting file. I don't know why. Is this like a concurrency, like a race problem? It could be, because I haven't touched that file and it's like it's trying to write when it's not ready to be written. Yeah, seems like it. That's weird. Okay, so if I go back to my gem spec. Okay, so now you added Faraday. Am I like writing typhus wrong? Like, okay, we have Faraday now, meaning in our API client, there is code about, there should be the call API method. Interesting. Why? I need to know. How are we time-wise? Okay, let me look at here. I mean, we have a little bit more time, so I really want to figure this out. I feel like I'm writing it wrong. This is it, right? Maybe it's written wrong in the project. No, this is how it's written everywhere, apparently. Okay, so why does it not work when I do it in the gem file? Explain it to me. I'm gonna generate this again. Hopefully we don't have that race condition issue again. We did. So I'm gonna run it again. And then I'm gonna try with HTTPX to see if it's like a typhus thing or what. Okay, going to my gem spec, there's nothing. Okay. So it definitely doesn't like typhus for some reason. HTTPX. Let's try with the last one. Unknown library. Available libraries are Faraday and Typhus. Okay, then why is this code about HTTPX everywhere? Okay, I don't know why it's not, why, where is this available libraries coming from? Just out of curiosity, can we find that? That's not in this project. Is that coming from OpenAPI? This is the build client.sh here. Docker. Where is that error coming from? Library template. Library, blah, blah, blah. Is that the first occurrence of it? Yes. Use user agent, this one. Clients, FGA, blah, 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 blah. 1 second. Let's do something. Let's go to the Open API generator. Do we have that? Okay, Open API generator. Because it might as well be coming from here. Because remember, the OpenFGA generator is built on top of this. Let's say Faraday. I don't think there's a lot of occurrences of that. Okay. Ruby Faraday. Pet store. This is samples. Configs. Config samples bin. This looks Ruby client code generation.java. Faraday, HTTPX, and Typhus. So HTTPX is definitely there. So no idea why that is not working. But it's interesting that it's just failing with Typhus, and that's actually the one I want to use. I mean, why? I guess we'll find out. But, you know, I'll keep it to Faraday for the sake of the stream. And I'm going to try to figure out why. It's just, I mean, it's literally only working with Faraday. It's not really working with the others. So there might be some error in the generator itself, and maybe that's something we can actually fix before even starting to write more code. Someone's asking me, what am I working on? I am working on generating a Ruby SDK for OpenFGA, which is an open source project. And what's happening right now is that you have the option to choose different HTTP clients in Ruby, like Faraday or Typhus or HTTPX. And for some reason, it's only working for Faraday, even though the original generator from OpenAPI has the option for the 3 of them. So I'm trying to figure out if that's like an error from the actual generator. It seems like it, but TBD. Now this should look better. We should have Faraday in the code or whatever. So if I go back, we initially realized this because I was trying to build the gem and use it. So that's what I'm probably gonna end the stream doing that. OpenFGA, am I in the right folder? No, this would be, let me just go to the folder, clients, FGA, Ruby, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and here's where the spec is. So gem build, OpenFGA. I'm gonna do it all at once. And gem install OpenFGA 0.0.1.gem and open the Ruby interpreter. Now we got a warning about Faraday. We'll fix that. We can fix that. We can fix it in the generator. Ooh, there's a little list. Invalid specification contains itself. I thought we fixed that. We did not. You know why? Because we didn't fix it in the generator. So I could fix it here, but then You see, I could fix it here, but then I would have to fix it in the generator again because it gets overridden every time. Okay, let's try again. Okay, now it's installing it. It was built, it was installed. We can require it here. And then, do I have the config stuff here? Yeah, let's just create a configuration. This doesn't get anything in the constructor, so let's just leave it like that. I'm gonna set the host to be HTTP, not HTTP, localhost 8080. And let's create a client, which I also have here, an API client before with that configuration, to finally create a client with that API client. And like I said, this is what I would love to avoid, having to instantiate these 3 different things in order to make a request. I just want to make a request right away. Now I can do create store. And when we try to do this, this is where we got the error. I don't remember the syntax here, or not the syntax, but like what I'm supposed to put here, but I'm just going to try with a name like this and see what this does. Connection refused. Okay, I like that error because it's true. I don't have my OpenFGA server running, but I can run it. Docker run this one. I'm running my server on port 8080, so it's running now. So here I should get a different error. Okay, we created the store. That's cool that you can just pass it like that. You know, it just felt natural to just say name, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I mean, I'm happy with the result. I was trying initially to just avoid making this. Let's see if we still haven't. These 3 different instantiations of things in order to make a request. But along the way, we found an error. We realized, okay, the library is not being passed, so we need to change the make file in order to specify the library that we want to use. By library, I mean the HTTP client, like Faraday Typhus HTTPX. Things we need to do, figure out probably in the next stream, or maybe I can do it asynchronously and then tell you all about it in the next stream, is why the hell isn't Typhus working? That's one thing. Another thing is fixing that in the generator, because it's unfortunately I can make changes here, but this is gonna be overridden and overridden every time we generate a new gem. So we don't want that. And finally, and in an ideal world, I want to build a wrapper around this, so you don't have to do this 3 times, and then this happens under the hood and it's completely transparent to you as the developer using this gem. That's my goal. So I think I am going to wait. I want you to see my stream, so I need to stop sharing first. Now I can move here. Thank you everyone for watching, for your questions, for your comments. I hope that for those of you who didn't know much about Ruby, kind of understood what was going on. And hopefully I will see you in the next stream, probably next week around this same time. I like this time. It's a time where I can drink decent coffee and I won't get like, all crazy about it for the caffeine. And yeah, just wanted to say thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another stream. Bye.